Well, hey everyone. Got to start it off with a little Ozzy Osbourne as a tribute to this wonderful man who gave so much and spoke so much truth, who, at least in the news, died the other day, but he's not dead. He just chose to step away and chose to, exit the stage, at least while the show is still going on, hopefully to come back another day. So those were two songs, I Don't Know and Crazy Train. So let's take a look at the lyrics here. So the first song, I Don't Know. People look to me and say, is the end near? When is the final day? What's the future of mankind? How do I know? I got left behind. So it's, to me, the song is all about recognizing when we start to seek answers from the external, from somebody else, from something else. Which it doesn't mean that we can't find inspiration or help or share and compare and all of that with each other. But if that's our primary source of where we're going, we're always going to fall. It has to come back to that internal journey, that internal recognition, because you are the only one that can connect to the divine. No one else can do it for you. So all these questions, and it's fitting in this time as well. People look to me and say, is the end near? When is the final day? What's the future of mankind? How do I know? I got left behind. So left. So this is like our fallen state. We're putting the pieces back together again. We're discovering this. So everyone goes through changes looking to find the truth. Don't look at me for answers. Don't ask me. I don't know. So again, don't look to others to give you the answers. It's because no one can give you the answer, right? It has to be something discovered within you. So don't ask me. I don't know. How am I supposed to know hidden meanings that will never show? Fools and prophets from the past. Life's a stage and we're all in the cast. So just sort of examining this whole experience and what we're doing here, we are, just to put it very simply, we are God, and we chose to forget that we are that, so that we could go through this infinite variation experience of discovering ourselves. So life's a stage and we're all in the cast, and that we are in this iteration for this moment, for this version. I'm choosing to play this character and you're choosing to play that one. Yet there is no difference. There is no separation there. So, how am I supposed to know hidden meanings that will never show? Discovering that which is hidden. But that's for each of us to discover within ourselves. Fools and prophets from the past. People talking about the way. And there have been many who've talked about the way. And every one of them is very clear on that message. Yet that message then gets distorted as if you're supposed to seek answers in them individually or in some priest class or some prophet or whatever. But that's not the way. It's all within you. You got to believe in someone asking me who is right, asking me who to follow. Don't ask me, I don't know. So people feel like they got to believe in someone. And again, it's not to disregard the helpfulness of having teachers and those who have things to share on certain topics and whatever else. But let that be a supplementary thing, not the primary. Let that be a subset of your primary way of discovering all that you need within you. And it's not even really discovering, it's just remembering. So don't ask me, don't ask somebody else. I don't know. Nobody ever told me. I found out for myself. You got to believe in foolish miracles. And so the Fool is the first card in the tarot, and it's where we start. And foolish can also mean like childlike. So come back to the childlike sense of wonder. So you got to believe in those foolish miracles. It's not how you play the game. It's if you win or lose. And you can choose, don't confuse, win or lose. And winning and losing is simply just drawing on the basic truth that there is a path of life and then there is a path of death. Both of them are valuable within this experience, and both of them are 100% available to us at all times. And it's not necessarily like losing, but the path of death is only there as a discovery of that which we are not. So how do you enhance your understanding of what love is? Well, you have to experience what it is not, so that you can have that contrasting element and then come back to that. And Ozzy Osbourne represented that contrasting element very well. You know, a lot of people in the, you know, quote unquote truth community say that he was like this evil man and, you know, did all this and was horrible and blah, blah, blah. But that's just the role that he played. And much of that is just simply embellished nonsense. It's not even true. He was a very good man. And it's not hard to see when you look at any of their songs, any of his music. It's just everywhere. It's everywhere. Just bringing truth, bringing light to the darkness and transmuting it and stepping back into this. And yeah. So he was choosing to play the game. It's not how you play it. It's if you win or lose. So are you choosing that path of life, or are you choosing death? And again, it's not like a loss. There's no end. So if we need more times to play it that way, that's okay. You know, a video game, if you fall off the level, you come back and you get to play again until you beat that level, and then you move on, and then you play a harder one, and then you fall off and you do it again until you get it right. So that's all we're doing here. So we don't need to make it complicated. So it's up to you. It's up to you. Repeated 4 times, fourfold nature of man, this 4 seasons, the cycle that we're in. It's up to you. Choose every season and recognize the benefits of every season as well. You know, we don't disregard the death, the winter, the letting go, just like we don't disregard the spring or the summer or the fall. All of it's important. So go, go, go. The Trinity, Father, Mother, Child. People look to me and say, is the end near? When is the final day? What's the future of mankind? How do I know? I got left behind. Now I'm lost. So again, stop looking for answers in others. Everyone goes through changes looking to find the truth. Don't look at me for answers. Don't ask me. I don't know. So that was that song, I Don't Know. And then the next one I played, which I'm sure y'all recognize, probably their most popular, Crazy Train. So all aboard. Ha 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 ha. And it's a great representation of our fallen state, and we have to examine it. We have to see it. We have to look in the mirror in order to do anything about it. We can't be in this state of denial, pretending otherwise. So crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as foes. So this illusion of separation enhanced to the nth degree, to where we literally find ourselves as enemies and start harming each other, which is absolute madness when you come back to the simplicity of there is no other. It's just you. So why are you going to hurt you? But this is the crazy. This is the crazy train. Maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. It's never too late, but we are certainly thick in it. Mental wounds not healing, life's a bitter shame. So these these wounded states that we find ourselves in, and how we just project those wounds onto others and create more wounds. And it's a dangerous game that we play in that way. And it just gets more and more intense until we decide, I don't want to be on this crazy train any longer. So I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. So going off the rails, what are rails? They are straight and they are narrow and they are very aligning, and they're bringing us home. So I'm going off the rails on a crazy train, as in I'm falling into the madness. I'm falling into the sense, the idea that separation is real and that I have to fight everyone and everything to be here, or that everything and everything is for me to take advantage of. Either which way, all comes from this belief that separation is absolute, not just an experience that we're having. I've listened to preachers, I've listened to fools, I've watched all the dropouts who make their own rules. One person conditioned to rule and control, the media sells it and you live the role. So talking about the cabal here, one person conditioned to rule and control, because that's the game. That's sort of the separation game, and how that expands out is this conditioning to rule and control, subversion, domination, subjugation, all of that. And the media sells it and you live the role. We play the slave game. We play that role. So just really looking at that. Mental wounds still screaming, driving me insane. Again, these internal wounds that we do need to heal, but we choose not to heal them and just to project them on others, driving me insane. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I know that things are going wrong for me. You got to listen to my words. Yeah. And the why, the cup, the chalice, the Christ. So you got to listen to my words. So those Christic words, those reminders, these clues that we place for ourselves, all these beings, and there's no separation. So it's really just the same layers of consciousness choosing to stay the bodhisattvas, sharing the words, the reminders, so that when we fall into forgetfulness, we remind ourselves again. You got to listen to my words. So I know that things are going wrong for me. I know that we're in a fallen state, but you got to listen to my words. Heirs of a Cold War, that's what we've become. Inheriting troubles, I'm mentally numb. Crazy, I just cannot bear. I'm living with something that just isn't fair. So this illusory sense of separation as absolute, when we're in that state, then our ego is not a bad thing. It's what gives us our character, our identity. But the problem comes when we let the ego drive, when we let it be in control, when we let it call the shots. So I just cannot bear. I'm living with something that just isn't fair. And that's this inverted state, this inverted belief that we find ourselves in. So yeah, we can be in the victim state, say that it's something else outside of me, or we can take ownership of what am I doing to live in that state? Who am I projecting onto? Who am I causing harm to, or pretending that I'm separate from? Just aspects of you. So I'm going off the rails on a crazy train, and hopefully these songs will help us to get back on the rails, to get back on that straight and narrow. And then it ends with the ledge, the edge. So as in this leap of faith, and or I guess you could look at it from the leap of faith, or you could look at it from the ledge or the edge that we're falling off of as we fall further. The crazy train just takes us off. That's probably more accurate. But yeah, that's Crazy Train for y'all by Ozzy Osbourne. And then the I Don't Know was the first song. Again, just a tribute to this man and what he's done and what he's given and all the wonderful songs that he's produced. And I'm very grateful for providing that contrasting element and singing about these things so clearly. And the ability to disguise it in these ways too. It's very helpful. because that's how he was able to continue planting these seeds, whether people consciously are aware of them or not. The seeds are still being planted. The ideas are still entering into their conscious space, ready to sprout whenever that individual is ready for them to grow. So thank you, Ozzy, for all your efforts. We really appreciate you. And we'll just get started on another show today. So this is Quest-i-on, the quest I am on, the quest to illuminate, to light up the single eye, the third eye. And that's certainly the quest that Ozzy was on. And we're grateful to have and know others that are on this quest, and grateful to be around all of you who are dedicated to this quest, this space where we ask questions and seek answers. And it's not to get to a point where we have all the answers. That's not the point of seeking, but it's just this continuous curiosity and this fun, playfulness that we can embody as this ever expanding experience continues to show. As we ask more of it, it gives us more to play in. So it's a forever evolving, wonderful place to be. And so this show is an opportunity for us to ask questions and share whatever we've learned and go over experiences or go any which way that we feel called to. There's really nothing that is off limits or off topic on this show. It's all welcome. So if you find yourself at any point wanting to ask a question or share something that you've experienced, something that you've learned, a challenge that you're having, or just add to a discussion around something that has been shared already. I love that there are so many wonderful wise souls that join this call, and that's not isolated to anybody in particular. So if you find yourself and you're like, hey, I know some things about this and I want to share, feel free to jump in. Feel free to jump in and add to the discussion. And you do that, if you're unfamiliar, is just you hit that center button on your screen, and that signals to me to open up your mic. It like raises your hand on my screen, and I can get your mic open, and you can, and then I'll call on you when there's an opportune moment. And if your mic is already open, just find a pause and jump in. If you have a hard time finding that pause and jumping in, just toggle your mic on and off. I'll do my best to see it, and I'll call on you to give you an opportunity to speak. So yeah, just some quick announcements before we jump in today. Just want to remind everyone that I am 100% donation supported to do all that I do. I love dedicating my time and committing to this, to spreading this message and helping out as best I can. And I'm not here claiming to know everything, nor would I ever, but I'm happy to share what I have learned. And it's such a beautiful process to get to share with others who are on that path as well, because then we all help each other out. And you all help me out immensely. Just the practice of doing this and speaking about these things, it helps me immensely. So I'm very, very appreciative. But of course, we have, in this matrix reality, we do have costs and things that come up from time to time. So if you want to help out any which way, you can go to my page, justincarpenter.org/contribute, which you see on your screen. And these are my donation links. If you have another method that you'd like to use, let me know, and I'm sure we can work something out. And thank you to all who have supported. And that's just one way to help out. If you do find yourself unable to help out financially, but you want to help out in other ways, feel free to reach out, and I'm sure we can find something, something to do. I always appreciate anyone who takes the time to write notes or timestamps for these shows or any show that we do. As you know, they're often long-winded. And so just having the notes and especially the timestamps in there just helps people to get to the particular topics that they'd like to listen to. And then on that note, if you feel like doing any video editing and taking these longer-winded format shows and condensing them down to more bite-sized snippets, that's incredibly appreciated. Thank you to all who have done that in the past, but that's always appreciated. We do at least one show every week and sometimes several, and so there's lots of content out there to make stuff with. I just don't often have the time to commit to that. So thanks for any efforts there. And yeah, and if you have other ideas on ways to help out or things that you want to contribute to this, feel free to reach out. I'm open to ideas or ways to do things better, or like I said, I'm just learning. So yeah, that's that. And then just a reminder too, we do still have the continuous support for Bali and the children, the Lions of Uganda. Here's their Gifts and Go if you prefer that route, giftsandgo.com/Lions of Uganda. Or you can send to me through my donation links and just specify that you'd like it to go to the children. And that certainly helps out a lot. Bali's doing his best with what they have. Just to give everyone an update, they did their landlord, where they're renting the place to house the children, and it ends up being a sort of a community gathering space, because there are lots of children in that village that don't have food on a regular basis, don't have good, stable homes. And he says, I can't turn anybody away that needs to eat or needs shelter or anything like that. So there's often lots of people there, in addition to I don't remember what the count of children that are living there, but it's like, I'll have to ask him, get an update there. But it's what? Yeah, it's like close to 30, close to children that live there full time, and then there's many others that come and swing by on a regular basis. So he mentioned that the landlord is not happy with all of the people being there, and he wants them out by, I think he said December. I'll have to clarify on that, but it was not immediately, but coming up. He wants them to find another place to be. So he's working to either communicate and find a way that they can stay there and continue paying rent to that landlord, or what that looks like. But of course, that's a stressful thing to put on anybody, especially when you're in the care of so many children. So just wanted to mention that, just so y'all know kind of what's going on. I'll make sure to keep updates going as that continues. But any support in that area is very, very appreciative. And thank you to all who have helped. It's so amazing to be able to do that. So thank you. And thanks for listening to that. And I think that's about it as far as the initial announcements there. And I think today, as I've kind of been doing, just because the excitement as far as what's happening in the out there seems to be continuing to pick up. So I will just go over sort of current events and just my brief overview of what's been happening. So the biggest news that's happened recently is and if you haven't watched this yet, I'd highly recommend this one in particular. I like watching all of Caroline Leavitt's, the press secretary for Trump. I love her updates, and she gave an explosive one yesterday with Tulsi Gabbard on there as well. And they were just talking about all of the evidence pointing to Obama and Hillary Clinton and Comey and Brennan and so many others colluding to spread a false story that the whole Russia hoax. So now there's ample evidence out there, and of course we've known this, but it's starting to percolate into the public space. And the fact that they would talk about this so adamantly in a press briefing is huge. So it's very much looking like that's going to be the narrative that sort of kicks this off. Again, I don't know how long that's going to take, but if Obama is the first arrest, and Q has said the first arrest will shock the world, that would be pretty shocking to many people. I mean, that's a very well-known name, and that would kick off some pretty crazy stuff. You know, I could see a lot of rioting happening, a lot of uproar, a lot of wild things kicking into motion, which when that kind of stuff happens, you can't really go back that easily. So again, I don't know how long it's going to take to develop to that point, how much the conversation is going to go to sort of warm people up to the idea and then finally do it. But it does seem like that's the direction that we're going. So that what's been released this week is an exciting marker. And then whenever that does happen, if that's the route that they go, that will be a huge marker for things kicking into a very, very high gear. So that's so that's fascinating to watch. And what else has been going on? Of course, still a discussion around Epstein and Trump's involvement with that, and and it's just a perfect role to get more people aware of the Epstein thing and get people to look into child trafficking and blackmail operations and all of that. And so if people's hatred of Trump is channeled in that way to get them to learn about these things, that's fantastic. And that's exactly what they're doing. So that's all happening simultaneously. So I don't know, but I can imagine if it moves forward with Obama, then that news will continue to be like an outrage point for those who are like, yeah, but Trump's corrupt too. Look, he did all this. And so that'll just help that news to get that information to get out more. And I'm not saying he is, very much not, but just the public idea of it is very helpful in getting the information out there. So it's all coming together quite beautifully, and it's fun to watch. And this is a very, very impactful time of year as well. And today is the new moon in Leo, which is a powerful moment. And then we're moving to the 8/8, August 8th Lionsgate portal as well. So between now and then could be some explosive things happening. Astrologically, it certainly is very highly energized. So yeah, we'll see what happens. As the first song sung, people look to me and say, is the end near? When is the final day? How do I know? I don't know, but it's fun to watch and keep an eye on, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, just a quick little news breakdown, at least from the major things that I've sort of noticed. Of course, there's lots of other things, going here and there. But those are the main things. So yeah, we'll just kind of jump into the open portion of the show today. So if you have a question or something that you'd like to jump in with or comment it on or anything, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get into that. So I'll just give a quick pause and see if anybody wants to jump in. Hey, Roxy, go ahead, sister.
Hi, Justin, and everyone else on the call. I sent you a message this week, Justin, and I thought, well, I might as well kick things off tonight on the topic of organ donation and its ethics and unethics, I suppose, in light of the RFK Jr.'s press release this week. And basically his findings, and he says this on his X account, that his findings show that hospitals allowed the organ procurement process to begin when patients showed signs of life. And this is horrifying. So it seems to be, I wasn't expecting, this kind of press release this week, but it just reminded me, it's very much in line with a video that I'd seen a couple of years back from a British nurse stroke, patriot, and she was saying exactly the same, and it just hit me so strongly that just really, I suppose I hadn't given it that kind of thought, but where she said exactly the same, you can't take organs from a dead body, you've got to be alive. So, and there was no such thing as brain dead. So she goes on, in this video to say this. And what he put out this week was very much in line with that. And I just thought maybe if it's something that you might like to speak about, given the revelations that are going on.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for the topic. That's it's quite something, and it's pretty horrifying when you learn about this practice. And so part of what RFK was talking about, I didn't watch the whole thing, but just looking at the highlights, it's bringing attention to the fact that you can't harvest an organ from a dead body. There's no use from organs from a dead body. So the only way that you can get an organ that has any use is if the individual is still alive. And it's even more horrifying in the sense that you cannot be, if the individual is still alive, anesthesia, it messes with the organs. So they are quite alive and feeling it when those things are extracted from their body. So it's horrible, and the ability to do that in this country is much more difficult, but it still has happened. It's like this, the hospitals are like this, and they make a ton of money doing this, a ton of money harvesting organs. So it's like this vampiric, predatory monster that's looking at people who are like, for somebody to declare them as dying or like beyond saving, so that they can be harvested in this way. It's disgusting. It truly is. And so just imagine being in such a vulnerable state, and especially if you're unconscious and not able to speak for yourself, and how that goes. So that's why they rely on, and they push the organ donor selection, so that they have this little contract that you signed to say, yep, I said that you could rip these things out of my body. And of course, we don't know the full extent of the practice. So we think we're doing a good thing, and they appeal to our good nature to say, oh yeah, well, if I'm dead, then whatever, I don't need my organs anymore. So that's fine. But they don't describe how you can't use organs from a dead person. They don't work anymore when it's that way. Once the life force has left, the organs are not useful any longer. So it's very horrifying to learn about and see, and it makes sense why they're dropping some of this information now. We will learn about all of it, but just to get people warmed up to the idea that there's this very satanic practice, and it's under the guise of the medical mafia. That's they're just as much in the trafficking business, and so these are just the open, it's horrific enough in the areas that we can know more openly, and that what hospital practices actually do and how that goes down. But then you just imagine all of the breeding grounds that the cabal had, where they were just breeding people and using them for whatever they wanted, whether that was for sexual perversions or for adrenochrome or for organ harvesting. So they would have plenty of people to use in that way, most of them bred underground. And then, yeah, so that's a horrific layer of that. And then you have the practice in China as well, where specifically many people were targeted to be used for that. Anyone who's like spoke out against the state and rounded up, and families never saw them again. They don't know where they were. It just was, if you started speaking out too openly against the Communist Party, you were just taken up. And that's often what they did. They would say they would send them to work camps or whatever, but if they felt their, quote unquote crimes of speaking out against the Communist Party were severe enough, then they would just kill them or take their organs while they're alive and feeling all the pain of everything, very much alive, and then just kill them, once they had extracted as much of their value out of it. It's horrible. And to add to it, they would target the Falun Gong practitioners, which Falun Gong is it's similar to Tai Chi, but it's just a series of movements and breath to help channel energy within your body and move things around and get things clear. And it's a practice that I've like barely done any in, but it's always been something that's kind of interested me, because the benefits from it are huge. People who practice this regularly have very high health and vitality, and don't need mainstream medical attention because they are taking care of themselves just with simple movements that anyone of any ability can do. It's not complicated. It's not super arduous or anything like that. It's just simply moving the body and working with the breath. But this practice was targeted by the Chinese Communist Party as a threat to them, because it, on top of the movement practice, it also is, I guess you could call it a religion, but I'd say it's more of an ideology of just recognizing the oneness of all and peace and harmony and all of those good things. So very much practitioners of the way. But of course, any remnants of that from a domination, subjugation, control perspective is the enemy. And so they labeled Falun Gong as the enemy. They forbid people from practicing it publicly or doing it at all. And so anyone who denied that, because it does have such benefit, was rounded up and taken to whatever. And because the Falun Gong practitioners were so healthy, they were some of the highest priority on the list for extraction of their organs. And so where it might take months or years in this country or other countries where the horrific practices, they still happen, but they're harder to pull off because there's more awareness and less of a domination from the centralized government to do that kind of thing. In China, they didn't have that restriction. So people could go to China and get an organ, that same day. Just go sign up for an appointment, and here they'll cut out the organ from somebody in maybe the basement, in the same building, same day, and just bring it right on up to you. So yeah, it's a very gruesome thing, a very dark truth that we will certainly be exposed to even more so. But it's great that this stuff is coming out, because the more that we learn about it now, the easier it's going to be to recognize just how horrific this thing has been, just how monstrous and scary, this thing has gotten. So that's just one layer of it. But I appreciate the efforts of like RFK Jr. to bring this to the surface, so that we can process and deal with it, and make that commitment to ourselves that we're not going to allow us to fall into this type of depravity again. We've gone off the rails on a crazy train. Let's get back on the rails. Let's stop doing these kind of things. But we have to be aware of them first. So, yeah, thanks again, Roxy. And I'll pass it back to you and see if you have any more comments on that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that was really great. Justin, I'll go back and listen, better to all that you've said. But do you think, like, under the new earth, the practice will be totally outlawed, and maybe we have to take our own fate then, that we don't rely on any organ donations? Like, they've created like an opt-out scheme, and this, in the UK and Ireland, and I think other countries within Europe, where, and this has just been like within about the last 4 to 5 years, where they're forcing the people to opt out, where it used to be that you opted in. And whilst I personally, I've never donated and don't intend to, that I'm thinking, well, if there was ever a situation where you needed to receive an organ, how can you expect to receive if you don't give? And actually, do you want someone else's energy and body part within you? So yeah, I was just raising these thoughts, I suppose, within my head, and it was great. I couldn't believe it, like, when it came out this week, and so this is the start of the conversation, that bringing it out to the public around, this whole evil scheme, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's so insane that you have to now opt out of it. So everyone they consider is just in by default. That's crazy. but yeah, and then they guilt trip and say that, oh, you're, if you opt out, you're selfish and blah, blah, blah. And it's just gaslighting, that's all it is. And, yeah. So as far as what will happen, I don't know for sure, but I'd imagine when we learn that you can't really harvest someone's organ without them being alive, I sincerely hope that we stop that entirely. The only things where I'd see maybe is like kidney donations. At least people can still live without that. But to me, it just seems so backwards to go to this cut and slash route, and as if that's the only option, when there are so many other options that we can go for. There's so many other ways that we can heal people. And if we really recognize that and stop just going to this barbaric practice of cutting into people and splicing things together and all of that, the times where that would ever actually be needed, I think would diminish to nothing. Because it's like, so I do see that going away. I see all these other ways of healing coming and being much more pronounced, and I don't know if there'd ever be a genuine need once all those other routes have been exhausted. I feel like we could accomplish anything that would be done as far as replacing someone's organ by just getting them to heal their body, because their body is miraculous. It can heal itself from anything. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there on that. But of course, how quickly that happens, I'm not sure. But I'd imagine that will be very fast once people learn the horrors of it. And, just like documentaries and movies and whatever showing this clearly, it's going to be a tough one to swallow, but I think people will see it. So yeah, that's my take there.
Well, thank you so much, Justin, for speaking to that. Yeah, very good topic of conversation to have us all really raising our awareness again towards and speaking about it. So thank you, and speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Roxy. Appreciate you, and thanks for the topic. And yeah, I saw Tracy raise your hand. Go ahead, sister.
Hey, yeah, I did. Yeah, hello everyone. Hey, Justin. So yeah, that is quite the topic that's come up now. That's being made aware. People are being made aware of. It's absolutely fucking shocking to know the absolutely hideous truth behind it. So to the Falun Gong that you mentioned, I have not researched independently either. I'm aware of it, but there is a woman that I met here quite a few years ago, about 3 years, maybe 4. Gosh, that I met her randomly in public, and she started speaking, and she was spreading awareness about that. She had pamphlets on it. She was very, very involved. She wasn't. She was a faction of. She herself is a faction of the Falun Gong. Unfortunately, I can't speak very specifically here in the terminology, but she was very much trying to spread that here in Hong Kong, and she was just absolutely devastated and heartbroken that people just did not care. And so then I was bringing up, started having conversations about all the stuff that was going on, and she was very keen to listen. And she's an elderly woman, in her 70s. And I haven't had a lot of contact with her over the past couple of years, but she's very keen to listen to the stuff that I shared with her, and was hopeful in what was true about it, and was waiting to see stuff play out as well. Sorry. And there's another person that I know here. She's just getting involved with doing Tai Chi in a group setting. There's all the communities here in Hong Kong are involved in that. And where I used to live, I used to ride around early in the mornings to different places, and there'd be a group of people in the plaza, in this one shopping plaza that we get together, and they'd invite me, come on, come and join. But I was clueless. I was just more interested in watching them. It was beautiful to watch the groups of Tai Chi going on. But yeah, that kind of practice would be something that hopefully will become more engaged in Western society. That'd be awesome. So, anyways, that was something that I was in such sort of going back to the Falun Gong, back when I was just starting. Excuse me, pardon me. With all the Q stuff, and just in the beginning of it, and I got so freaked out. It was during the riots and stuff that were going on here. I think it's like 2018-ish, 2019, before COVID. And Hong Kong went crazy because of what China was changing. They were changing policy. So a whole bunch of not the riots. So the protesting started that was turned into rioting over a period of time. But it started out very peacefully, and I was not aware of sort of a lot of the political stuff going on. I was just starting to learn about stuff here. But being a person that I thought, I was becoming a born-again Christian, just brand new at that in 2016. And what we were seeing with all the different stuff going online on YouTube, with all the censorship going on and stuff like that. So I started to get so freaked out, thinking that I was being watched online because I was a Trump supporter. I was even scared to hang. I was obviously scared to hang my American flag in any way here. But I wanted to, I did have one, but I would hide it behind this umbrella on my balcony. So nobody could see it but me. But I was like, I had to hang it. I was like, but I also had a Chinese flag. I was hanging both. So, because at that time, excuse me, a lot of people were very proudly waving American flags, Chinese flags, stuff like that when the protesting was going on. But I became extremely paranoid that I was being watched and that they were going to come and get me. Kind of a there's so much sort of talk about the CCP and the control they had. And yeah, I was extremely freaked out by it because I felt very sort of singled out in a way in my community. Like there was nobody at that time was getting interested in people that I was connected to. I was trying to share this information with, but nobody was biting. Plus, like I said, the whole protesting thing that was going on and the political upheaval that went on here was, everybody was very freaked out by it because nobody really knew what was going on for so long. It was very hard to tell. And there was so much fear mongering that people were being disappeared by the hundreds, if not thousands, is what the numbers were coming up to. People were being disappeared from these protests that were against what was going on. And anybody against the CCP kind of a thing. And so there was a lot of fear going around anyway. So myself, I even had like very vivid dreams about it. I was being come and taken from my home, like literal dreams about it. So this whole Falun Gong concept I was learning about then, but then later, it was quite a few years later that I met this person that was involved. Anyways, so it was quite a period of time that I just, it took a long time for me. It was part of the reasons that I've spoke on this chat, that I did not leave my house for a very long period of time, mostly because I was too sick to, but then there became a real actual fear, of being singled out, of being somehow disappeared, taken to a slave camp in China, never to be seen again. That was very real for me, very real. And it took me a long time to get over that fear. Now, I'm fine now, but it was very scary. And knowing what they were actually doing, with all this organ harvesting and everything. So that Roxy has brought up this topic. So yeah, it's amazing that it's coming out like this in a way where people, it's going to be, horrifying and shocking, especially people that had been personally affected by family members that have been, taken this way. It was just horrific to think of what that would be like for them. So just on to something else is the the very recent news of the Hulk Hogan passing. That character has passed as well. I just saw that as I popped on here, because it is in the middle of the night, so I didn't see it before I went to bed. It was the news that came on while I was sleeping, so just thought I'd mention that. And then a quick update of what I'm going through here. I'm healing all right from the accident. Actually, I had another accident after getting hit by a taxi. Nobody else involved, but I think my tire is a little bit wonky and had another pretty bad fall. So I've been healing from that. So a little slow going, a little frustrating, but I am healing. And, it's middle of summer here, end of July. Very, very grateful that I've had the time away to do that. It's definitely been quite a struggle. As, like I said, I mentioned, I have moved into a new place. So just over, be coming up 2 months into this new place already, which is shocking how fast it goes, which will be August 6th, will be a 2 month marker. Still kind of getting it's not really quite settled here, but it's been a little difficult, but I am enjoying being in my new space. So this is my update. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. And I really appreciate you sharing all that, but in particular, the layers around your experience with just the fear of being in Hong Kong and having such an ominous presence right near you with the Chinese Communist Party, and that Hong Kong's kind of like a special scenario, but it's still, you still never know. And I don't think you have any fear. I don't think you need to worry about that now. But certainly not too long ago, that was a much more ominous and controlling force. And what China was the testing grounds for what the cabal wanted to do for the whole world. That was where they trialed it first, and were in some ways very successful in implementing this domineering police state. And any dissent was swiftly taken care of, and it was controlled through fear and intense. So I'm sure that was quite something to deal with, and I'm glad you didn't get swept up. And when we'll have more stories to share, so that again we don't fall into this kind of mess again. We don't allow this kind of stuff to happen. But that requires the dedication of everyone, or at least the majority, to say, no, we're not going to tolerate. We will have no tolerance for evil, no tolerance for this kind of behavior. So thank you for sharing. And glad to hear that you're healing and feeling better, and just shifting in that direction. And so we'll just continue sending all the goodness your way. And just always appreciate you sharing. So thanks for that. And I'll just pass it back and see if you or anyone else wants to jump in with any other topics, anything else that's on your mind, a new direction to take us, or talk more on what we've already spoken on. So feel free. All right. Well, I do have some written questions, and you're always welcome to send me questions. I do save them for a moment when there's no one else live on the call. I love to give priority to those live on the call, so feel free to jump in whenever you do have something, but I will go to the written questions. And you can always send me anything, whether it's a comment on a public post, I try and save those, or you can send to me directly, whether it's through Facebook or through my website, justincarpenter.org. There's a way you can email me there, or you can send to me directly on Telegram, which is my most preferred way. Just got to get me, which is my username is @JustinCarpenter, all one word. Just be mindful there are scammers and imposters and people out there trying to use my picture and display name, but the username cannot be copied. It is always @JustinCarpenter, all one word. So that's how you can reach me. And yeah, so I had a question. This was a comment on the video I did with Freely the Banana Girl on refined sugar. And the comment was, what would you say about people worried about candida? So overfeeding candida with sugar. And while candida, so my response to that is, while candida certainly does feed on sugar, what it really becomes, and candida gets a bad rap as if it's this horrible thing that we have to get rid of entirely. But in reality, it keeps us alive, especially if we're eating things that are not in the highest alignment with our body. So if you, especially things that are more difficult to process and break down, cooked foods, starches, and the like, do get converted to sugar as well, just as basically everything within our body does for that simple fuel. But the candida helps to process the more difficult to break down things. So what really feeds candida is not sugar. I mean, it is in the simplest form, but what it really is looking for is the slow moving, slow digesting foods, if we want to call them that, that go through our system. And that gives the candida ample time to set up its colonies and eventually become overpopulated. And that's where it becomes an issue, because then the candida, if it's overpopulated and it doesn't have enough of a food source, it can turn to your body as a source to feed on, which obviously we don't want that. So as far as the idea that excess sugar is going to lead to candida overgrowth, it's a gross oversimplification of it, and it's not really looking at what happens. Because I have direct experience in this within my own body of going on things like juice cleanses or fruit cleanses where I'm on nothing but juice or nothing but whole fruit, and I actually experience candida die off. And these symptoms can come, through lots of different express themselves in lots of different ways. In my body, candida die-off usually expresses with things like mouth ulcers and nausea when I've gone deeper into cleanses. And this can happen because the candida is trying to convince you to go back to eating the things that it has a much more easier time to feed on. But with fruit and juice, from fruit and is so easy to process, so easy to pass through our body, that our body is able to extract the sugar that it's looking for, energize the cells, feed the glycogen within the muscles, and then send it on its way. So it doesn't have time to just sit there. So that's why going on a fruit cleanse is very helpful for actually reducing candida within the body if it's overpopulated, getting it down to a healthy level, or potentially not at all if you can stay in that way. So fruit is full of sugar. So the idea that sugar is going to lead to candida overgrowth is just, it's not the case. It's, like I said, it's an oversimplification. So that would be my response to people who are wary of fruit or sugar with candida issues, is it's not the sugar that you need to address. It's the dense, slow moving, processed, cooked foods that are that the candida has a lot of time to feed off of. So once you shift that, then that problem dissipates. So yeah, that would be my response to that kind of question. And yeah, I didn't write down who wrote it. It wasn't somebody that I recognized on YouTube, but that would be my response there. So yeah, I will just pass it off. Oh, I see Sunshine. Raise your hand. Go ahead, sister. Hey, Sandra, go ahead.
Oh, yay. Can you hear me?
It is very quiet.
All right, can you hear me now? Better? Hold on just a second, Justin.
All right.
Let me get off of this. I'm not very good at this stuff. Okay, let me see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud
Better?
and clear.
Better?
Yes,
Better?
so much better. So much better.
Tap to mute. Hello? What
Yep,
a bummer.
we can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, so now we can hear you. If you can hear me,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you loud
Let
and
me
clear.
leave and come back.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Telegram sometimes has issues. Leaving and coming back sometimes helps with that. We'll see. We'll see if that fixes the issue.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect.
All right,
We're there. Go ahead.
All right, well, hello everybody. It's been a long time. I'm always I always listen. Always listen. And I just haven't been able to get onto a live in a long time. And so I miss everybody. And I actually I just want Tracy to know that we're driving a lot right now. And so when we get to, for some reason on Telegram, I don't, because we're driving up through the mountains. And so I don't have internet or Wi-Fi. And so for some reason, if I start the Telegram before while I have internet, when I lose it, the video just keeps playing. I mean, so I get to listen to it up and over the mountain. And every time I hear Tracy, just like, there's just something very special about her and the way that she comes across and the way that she like talks. It's just such a joy for us when we hear her and when she starts talking, because everybody there's a few of us and they're like, oh, here comes Tracy, and you just don't ever know what she's going to say, what it's about. There's just, I don't know, just a joy. And I just wanted to mention that because I think it's important to know, for us to let other people know that we think they're special. And also, we listened to the Aaron, Abke, or I don't know his last name, the interview with that Justin did. Fantastic. Oh my gosh. Absolutely marvelous. What a joy that was. I did have a question about that. And I know I've listened to some of his, his YouTubes, but like I said, since we're traveling so much, the whole internet thing's an issue. So we're pretty much just telegramming it. And when he was talking about Paul, so I'm just wondering if my understanding is correct, or if you could give me more information. When he's talking about Paul, basically he's saying Paul's a big fat fraud. Is kind of what I'm getting. Like the idea of that religion is like, and I know because religion uses Paul a lot, like in church and in theory, and it's always like Paul said this, Paul wrote this, Paul did this, blah blah blah. And so almost like the church has really promoted Paul as being like this just major martyr or something. And then when I'm listening to Aaron, basically he's just like, I mean, I feel like he's just like, yeah, this guy's a joker. So could you maybe explain that a little bit? And I just want to make sure everybody knows I love them. Just because I don't get to talk all the time doesn't mean I'm not thinking about you and Lila and Justin and Darth, everybody. So yeah, there you go.
Thanks, sister. That means a lot. And yeah, we love hearing from you too. Always a joy to hear you pop on and see your name in various spaces. And I always love reading your comments in various spaces as well. So just thank you for you. And yeah, thanks for sharing the love with Tracy. We just absolutely love her as well. So appreciate that. And yeah, as far as the question goes on Paul, that's a good one. And Aaron does a really good job at explaining these kind of things especially in the Jesus Way podcast, which I think they've got like 12 or 13, and maybe more episodes out by now. Every single one of them that I've listened to has been phenomenal, really good stuff. But for those not aware, just the kind of backstory of who Paul is so, as the way the Bible describes it is his name used to be Saul, and then he had this moment where, and this is well after, Jesus was alive, the time of Jesus, I think like maybe over 100 years, maybe hundreds of years. I'm not sure exactly the timeline, and the timeline, who knows if that's even real. But Saul had this encounter with what he claims is Jesus in a dream, and then converted and became Paul, and then started spreading this message that he'd received from quote unquote Jesus in his dream. And just the ways that, and so what Aaron does a great job with is showing, okay, we can't know if that's true or not, that experience, but what we do have is we have the teachings of Jesus, of Yeshua, and then we have these later claims of Paul, and then we have a lot of discrepancies. We have a lot of contradictions. So his thing, and the sort of the point of the Jesus Way podcast, is to say, okay, well, whenever there is a contradiction, I'm going to go with Jesus. I'm going to go with Yeshua's teachings, and not go with Paul's teachings when there's a contradiction. Because there are lots of sayings and things from Paul that are not out of alignment with the way, but there are many that are. There are many that step away from that. And one of the biggest ones is this idea push that salvation is only found through belief that Jesus died for your sins and he is your savior, which is nothing that Jesus ever taught. It's nothing that he ever claimed. It's nothing that he ever pushed. And so this idea that salvation only comes through belief disregards basically everything else that Yeshua taught, which is that it's through faith, or not through faith, but through good works. Faith is what allows us to stay on that path and to feel the goodness of creation and our connection with the divine. But it's through action. It's through our choices. That's how we are saved. And nobody else does it for us. Nobody else can do it for us. You cannot have a savior. Anyone parading as a savior or claiming to be a savior is actually doing the opposite. It's debilitating you. It's pushing you into a victim consciousness state and taking you away from that fundamental truth that we are the ones who define our reality and our trajectory, but through our choices and our actions. So that central teaching of Paul, that you have to believe that Christ died for your sins and that you are a worthless sinner and you need to be saved in that way, that's what the whole religious church is based on. That's the ideology that stands much stronger in what they teach versus what Yeshua actually taught, with the words that came out of his mouth. Now, there are churches are varied as far as their what they teach, but it's very consistent across the board that Paul's teachings are very highlighted, and that's like a central pillar for what mainstream Christianity is. And so his assertion, and I very much agree with that, is that is it's problematic, and it takes us away from what Yeshua was actually trying to say, and what all of these ascended masters were here to teach, which is that you step into power when you discover that within yourself, and you're not looking for answers outside of you, and you're not looking for somebody to save you. Recognizing that you are an aspect of the Creator, you are divine, you're beautiful, and you're here to step into that. But you can't create slaves who know that. So if you have someone or groups of people or whatever, that energy trying to dominate, subjugate, control, enslave, then you have to take away that. You have to take away that knowing as best as you can, and water it down and distort it and push it on all sorts of different ways. So I'm not here claiming to know if that was Paul's intentions by pushing these things as adamantly as he did. But the story is pretty suspect, that he just had this this dream where he encountered Jesus, and Jesus told him all these things that contradicted many of the things that Jesus said before. And we're just supposed to believe Paul that, like, oh yeah, no, Jesus actually changed his mind, or he didn't actually tell us these things because we were to wait for Paul to tell us, or whatever. It's like all of it is just so shady from a simple perspective, but the church just glosses over all of that, and she's like, no, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, and this is how we're supposed to be, and this is what happens. So it just becomes another controlling arm of the state to, funnel people seeking spiritual growth and answers to things. And it's like, here, we have all the answers, and they're what we say, and don't look anywhere else. And definitely, Jesus was great and all, we'll use his name, but his teachings, yeah, they're not that important. We actually like Paul's teachings a lot better. And so it just becomes more and more distorted as time goes on, and until we find ourselves here. So yeah, again, that's the central message of the Jesus Way podcast, which is a phenomenal series if you want some good things to listen to, and just dissecting the differences, the discrepancies between Paul's teachings and Jesus' teachings. And he, Aaron's great in that series. He's like, I'm not here to be a Paul hater, because sometimes people will go pretty adamant and say that Paul is this, evil force and intended to cause all these things. He's like, I don't know what happened with that or where the intentions were, but I can just make it very simple of like, if there is a discrepancy, I'm going to go with what Jesus taught, and just keep it that way. So yeah, it's a great question, and I'll pass it back to you and see if you have any follow-up on that.
Yeah. So didn't Constantine basically come up with the same story? Like he was visited. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm misremembering, but basically the same story. And do you think that since it was so long after Jesus, or Yeshua, whatever, that maybe the church, he was just like a church, just like now in these days? I mean, oh, and I had another good question after that. So hold on. I mean, yeah, answer that.
Yeah, great question. So if I got your question, it's Constantine, very similar story. Constantine said he had all of these dreams and visions, and he was supposed to paint crosses on his shields in order to go vanquish his foe, and he quote unquote converted to it, but really he just realized that he had to, in order to stop, because what Rome did was at first overtly oppress any followers of Christ, any followers of the way, and they would do that militarily and by killing them, very much like what we've seen with what we were talking about earlier with the Chinese and the Falun Gong practitioners, very much openly against it. But then they realized it was a losing battle, so they were like, well, we just have to convert, quote unquote, and claim it's our own, and then continue twisting the teachings, and over a period of however long, then those teachings become very distorted. And so yeah, that's the issue that we've run into within that scenario and within Paul. And again, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly how much of those stories are real or happened in those exact ways, but I can see the effects and how that has been used to create a whole, enslaving religious system that's hell-bent on keeping people away from their divinity within. That's the number one goal. So yeah, let me know if that answered your question.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, so I had another question. Actually, I have a crap ton of questions, but I'll be polite. Because I haven't been on here forever. But I mean, we could go on forever. But anyways, so I had a quick question about reincarnation and the whole idea of old souls, new souls, purple souls, gray souls, whatever. My question would be that doesn't it? I mean, so I guess my was wondering what your thoughts are. Not really a question, but I've always been taught like there's nothing new under the sun. So that from God's from the the Alpha, he's the Omega. He's at the beginning, at the end. He knows every hair on your head. He knows, right? So in my mind, if we've been forgotten, right? If we forgot, when we're reincarnated and stuff, isn't it all from the very beginning? Like, aren't we all from the very beginning? And aren't we all going to be to the end of this, like from the beginning to the end? And if that's the case, then how can there be new souls? Or are we all just at the same race, just learning and different and reincarnating at different? Like we all, like he's like, let there be light, let there whatever, and then he's like, let there be a Justin, let there be a Sandra, let there be a whatever, Tracy. And then we started at the very beginning, and we're like trucking through, and we just keep going around and around and around, 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 around to the very end. Or is it, I guess, new souls? I mean, which I would mean like they're just starting their journey, new soul. And if that's so, where are those coming from? If they're just now plopping in, because I hear a lot of things like, "Oh, she must be an old soul." Well, I think, am I saying, I guess, and it's not accurate, I'm sure. I'm just saying it feels like we've all been here from the beginning, and we're all going to be here at the end. So, can you give me your thoughts on that? And anybody else, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I guess it really depends on how you look at it. I really like the analogy of water and the ocean being like this all-encompassing source of water, the deepest container of it. All water comes from the same source, and it goes back to the same source. And we are every little drop of water, every little river, stream, creek, lake, cloud, every way that the water disperses from that, every container that it's placed in. Now that water, it has a different sort of characteristics. The water's frozen, or the water's in cloud form, or the water's flowing, or the water's stagnant, the water's dirty, the water's in a cup, or the water's in a bowl, the water's in a lake or a river, however. It looks very different in all those different forms. But at the end of the day, it's water, and it's coming back to that same water. So that's how I see these sort of coalescing experiences that we have, where we move away from the source to experience what the journey of water moving from that, whether it's evaporated in a cloud and carried into and brought into a river. So that journey is coming back home, and then we return home, and they're like, wow, okay, I'm the ocean. I am all of that. I remember now. I see that. But then we have an experience, and we're like, well, that was fun. I want to do that again. Which it seems crazy right now from this perspective, but when we are truly knowing of how timeless we are, and eventually we yearn to have an experience where I can deepen my connection with self. So how do I grow and strengthen the feeling of love when I am that, and it's everywhere, and I know it so deeply from that perspective? Well, the only way that I can strengthen and deepen that connection is the moving away from that which is not, so that I can come back into it again. So as far as the specifics, as far as like our unique character or identity, I mean, it really depends on where you draw the line, right? So looking at it from because there is no other, right? there ultimately is no Sandra, there's no Justin, there's no Tracy, but there is, and there's not. So and the more that we sort of let go of holding on to that identity has to be preserved in that way, or these characteristics have to stay in that same, the more that we get to sort of expand into more layers and more ways, and be open to that character and identity shifting so that it fits the perfect role for the story in that time. Because ultimately this is a story. It's like the most fascinating story that we're creating, writing, playing in, and watching all at the same time. And so we all have these different roles. And so to your question around, people claiming like old souls and new souls and all of that, well, we can just look at it simply from in a movie or a show or a play or whatever. There's going to be the wise old sage, and there's going to be the newborn, and there's going to be the fool, and there's going to be the villain. There's going to be all the characters, whatever makes a story good. There's going to be those roles. And so the formation of this experience is going to have all of these archetypes showing up in all these different ways. So I don't know necessarily if it's like this soul has incarnated more times to give them that wisdom, or perhaps they just incarnated with more of the wisdom already embedded into their character, so that role they played fit that. Just as the innocent, the less experienced band of consciousness playing out its role is necessary to give that experience. And then all of it coming together gives the story. It makes the whole story happen. So I don't necessarily look at it from, this soul has lived more lifetimes or done it more times, and but at the same time, that's not necessarily inaccurate. And also it's just kind of hard for us to conceptualize from this point of view as well, because all of it's true, really. Like if we can imagine it, it's true. It's happened. It's there in some form, in some way. There's some these infinite timelines and infinite variations of this experience, and whatever idea or scenario that we have, it plays out to the end of its perceived use or want within the fascination of consciousness itself. So the storyline goes until we're like, I'm done with that story. I want to try a different flavor. I want to try a different style. So this is all just continued happening, and will continue happening. And so, yes, all of that is true, and none of it at the same time. And it depends on your perspective and your point of view and where you're looking from. So impossible to describe completely in words or even conceptualize entirely in this state. And so I hope that doesn't just add more confusion to it, but that would be the words that I'd share on that topic. But I do appreciate the question. It's very very philosophical and interesting. So thank you for that. I'll pass it back.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that was just absolutely good. I mean, because really, if you think about it, that's really good. I mean, you could go a million ways. So you're right. It's actually both true. I mean, we were around some people, and they're like, she's like, she reminded me of, I guess, when we used to talk about like the truthers, when she put her hand on my head and was like, "You're an old soul." It was just very odd and very weird, and I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're an old soul." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, what does that mean?" And yeah, so I can see where both can be true, and I just was like, and then somebody's like, then they try to explain. I was like, "Oh, well, I've never really thought about that. I just think that we all come from the same source, good, God, and so, I mean, I felt like we're like here from the beginning, whatever that means, not like me, but, my consciousness, So I would imagine maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. But thank you very much. I will not take up any more of your guys' time. So hope everybody's doing fantastic and much love. And hope you're having a fantastic summer. I have some fruit trees growing, which is just superb. And I'm in Palisade where there's like tons of like pears and peaches and just, yeah, super wonderful. So thank you very much, Justin, for your time, and much love to everybody. So have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. Really appreciate you, and thanks for the questions today. Yeah, and that sounds amazing with the peaches and pears. It sounds like a fun, delicious adventure. And that's really what this all is the fun, delicious adventure that we're having. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for it all. So yeah, I will just pass it off and see if anybody else wants to chime in either on these topics we've discussed or take us in a whole new direction. You are more than welcome.
Hey, I just want to pop in to say it was really beautiful to hear you. Thank you so much. You are just a beautiful ray of sunshine every time you come on and speak. So I love hearing your voice and your shares every single time as well. So thank you. That was so sweet to hear. I do want to touch back on what you spoke on about the candida and the sugar affecting it and whatnot. And I would like to give my testimony on that. So I had I have two. Well, I don't like to say it like this anymore because it's like this claim of a possession. I've got this disease, 2 autoimmune diseases I had experiences of in my past. Both are in remission. I'd like to state it like that because I don't really know how else to phrase it accurately and correctly. But like very severe cases where, excuse me, I had very unbalanced levels of the candida in my system, in my, all intestinal, of course. And so I was breaking out in hives, not an eczema type rash. It was a hive, which is, I believe, categorized differently. And it's a completely different form on your skin and reaction, the way that it forms in the skin and length of stay, whatnot. Anyways, so it was breaking out extremely bad over a period of time, like months. Could not figure out what it was. Finally got treated for what it was through a naturopathic center in Vancouver, Canada. Did a cleanse for many months of changing my whole diet and stuff like that. So I was able to figure out what was going on in my system. Then I got a second autoimmune disease, which was caused for different reasons, but broke out in the eczema type. So it's skin affected again, but both internal, both intestinal, but many factors involved as to why. I don't want to go into that whole story, but the situation for myself now, going through different cleanses I've gone through in the past couple of years that I've shared on here, going, pretty raw, pretty much like 90% raw, 10% cooked foods, which started over the last 2 years, getting on the go-go juice, urine therapy, still going strong with that, by the way. Kind of fluctuated a little bit here with my move though, and with the accident and stuff like that, and just sort of logistics of how I'm able to get stuff to my house and whatnot. So, but still absolutely a daily thing that has been so helpful. But most recent change would have been the sugar that I added to my diet. So I've been very careful of not overdoing, not going too gung ho, but testing the body to see its reactions, right? And I've had very positive. I haven't had any negative, because I feel I've done it very sort of slowly and carefully. I didn't want to over intake it, just to try to get an extreme reaction. So so yeah, I have had benefits of definitely more energy, most noticeable was feeling satiated, whether eating or drinking, which even at the height of drinking, doing the go-go juice cleanse, if you will, when I was getting up to like 4 liters a day, because I was not having, my sugar was so low. Yes, I was consuming a lot of fruits, but not to the amount where I, like we discussed, sugar not having, or fruits not having as much sugar content, and depending on which one you're eating and stuff like that. So adding the sugar has definitely I feel improvements from, really enjoyed the flavors and tastes for sure. But I have not had any effect on any candida rising in a way that would, because I can be, my body's metabolism or whatever, it's the system that I have personally, that I've monitored for decades now with these issues. So it's not just a short-term thing. But they first started happening, it's been decades since the first incidents of what's going on, like back in the 90s. So anyways, I have not had any reactions negatively regarding the candida. So I think that like you said, that sort of claim of, the sugar is going to cause it to kick off really bad or affect it really badly. So it hasn't for me. It has not for me. And so I'm pleasantly surprised at that for sure. And I think that's kind of it, really. Just to bring up that one point there. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, on the sugar topic, it's interesting to experiment with. And I'll just give my sort of use here is I basically I make like a massive smoothie most days as my lunch / break fast. I break my fast around like 11 or 12, and usually it's just with a massive smoothie that I'll have for the early afternoon through late afternoon. And so all I've been doing with the sugar is just adding like a tablespoon or two to my big smoothie. And of course here I often offer to everyone else in the house, all Darth's children and whoever. And now that Lila and Elliot are here, so we've got lots of smoothie lovers, which is great. And I've only noticed benefits from it. I haven't noticed anything crazy as far as health goes, but it's just delicious. And so I will keep doing it that way. But I do think it's good to note that it's like, because it's such a pure form of sugar, our body actually, fruit in its whole form is ideal. So in fruit in its whole form, it's sugar with the minerals, with the hydration, with all of it. So it's got other things along with it. So sugar just by itself might lead to mineral imbalance, because it's going to be rebalancing whatever we put into our body and using minerals from other things if necessary, even from our own body. So I as always, and I've mentioned many times, but I appreciate Casey, Vegetable Police, and his perspective and his just gung-ho way of really trialing something so adamantly. And he's a very strict eater as far as what he eats, and he's very good at isolating variables and seeing things. And he has pulled away from the sugar usage. He said he will add it to fruit sometimes and doesn't have an issue with that. But he did notice that when he was drinking just pure sugar water, he did experience some issue. And that's what he suspects is the problem, is just that it wasn't paired with fruit. Like when Freely does her sugar water, she's always got berries or other fruit with it. So it's got that mineral kind of pairing with it. So just something to note in that capacity. And speaking of Casey, he had a great video the other day, just talking about how everyone is an aspect of you, and just his comedic way of talking about it was quite funny. But yeah, so just wanted to note on that, and thanks again, Tracy. And yeah, I saw Darth, you opened up your mic. Did you want to chime in on the last topic? I'd love to hear your words there if you do. Just on the concept of old souls and new souls and all that. Oh, I see your mic is open, but we're not hearing anything.
Okay, hey, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, so I just wanted to comment on the idea of old souls and the idea of how often are we here, and were we ever not here, and is it the same people that are always here? So all of us spring from the absolute divine consciousness. And in order for any of this to exist, aspects of the consciousness of the absolute has to be concealed from itself. And so up in the highest realms of consciousness, all the ideals are connected to each other in the manner in which they're supposed to. So power is always connected to wisdom, right? And wisdom is always connected to love. And justice is always connected to loving, wise power, right? But down here, all of the attributes are separate. So power and justice, or power and wisdom, aren't always connected. Sometimes we'll have a powerful person and he's just not that wise, right? So so now we're on the topic of like souls and individuality and the source of that, and how often are we here? So the way that any of this happens is that absolute divine consciousness is presented with a vision of itself and of the outside world, and that absolute divine consciousness, which is us, we have the choice of either accepting the vision or rejecting it. So imagine for a moment that you are God, and you don't have to actually imagine because you actually really are God. So imagine that that you are at one time complete and whole within yourself, and then and then you eventually consent, or you find yourself in a state in which you're no longer complete, in which every attribute of yourself is there, but they're no longer connected, and you can't really quite remember yourself because you're separated from yourself. And now you're in a realm, and there's a vision, and all around you are these swirling shapes, and for a moment you have the choice. Do you consent to the vision or not? Because you can refuse to consent to it, and you can return to yourself and your completeness of your absoluteness, right? And you could just say, no, I'm rejecting the vision, I'm rejecting this reality, and you go back to yourself in which you're all things and beyond that. But what happens is that we're down here, and a portion of ourself is concealed from ourself. So if you're a man, then the feminine aspect of yourself is concealed from yourself. It's hidden on the internal structure. So you're aching to be complete. And in the vision of reality around you, there's that feminine force that kind of like pulls you into the vision, and you accept it, right? Or if you're a woman, the masculine aspect of yourself is concealed from yourself. It's in the internal. And so you don't have direct access to it. So you're hungering for that aspect, and you'll see that in the vision around you, and it ties you to staying in the vision. Otherwise, you would just leave, right? Because the vision is painful. There's all kinds of trials and tribulations and horrors that we go through in the vision. It's part of it. You can't take it out, right? There's blessings and there's blisses and there's all kinds of delights in the vision, but it's also can be painful. So we would just leave. And then when we die in the vision, we're separated from the vision for a moment, right? Because you go into the blackness of death. And so that's the second time that you really have a choice. Am I going to go back into the vision, right? And so people are presented with visions of loved ones and expectations of an afterlife, and it just kind of sucks them back into the vision. It has to be that way. Otherwise, the entire world would just disappear. So there's all of these systems, whether it's reincarnation or the soul system or the solar system or the Christian system or the Buddhist, all of these systems are trying to make sense of the vision. So is there really even such a thing as souls or such a thing as spirits or such a thing as reincarnation? No, all of these systems are trying to grasp as something that's beyond all of them. And so all of them are useful, and we can learn something. So we can learn something from the Christian system. We can learn something from the Taoist system. We can learn something from the old Druze system, or even the old Druid system. All of these systems have something to teach us about who we are, but who and what we are actually transcends even speech. Even all the words in the world can't really adequately, truly describe what it is. All of those words, they're just in the vision. And the vision is just that. It's just something that we see. So our identity, to say that, oh, you are Justin, or I am Darth, or you are Lila, all of that, it's just in the vision. And if you take all of that vision away, what's there is still the eternal, motionless observer. So the fact that we're here and we're bearing witness and we're experiencing and we can see it, that never changes. Through your senses, you can only see the vision, but vision itself is always changing, and it never ends and it never begins. It's just eternal changing experience by an eternally unchanging identity. And so right now, while you're in the vision, see, we've believed it. And so because I've believed the vision, now I identify as Darth Phaedrus. Or because you're in the vision, you identify as Roxy or Andrea or Leah, or however it is that you identify yourself. But that's really just being presented to you by the vision. And if you lose control of the vision, then the vision turns into an illusion. It turns into a nightmare. And so all of the meditation practices that we do and all of the learning that we do and all of the systems that we do are just to prevent the vision from turning into an illusion, to prevent heaven from turning into hell. But at the end of the day, none of it's real. It's just a vision. The only thing that's real is the fact that we're here and we're observing it. So we only think we're different people, but we're not actually different people. We're just the same person over and over and over and over again. And we only identify as different people because of what we're experiencing in the vision. But the vision isn't real. It's only real while you're stuck in it. And then the second you're out of it, you're like, oh, it was just a dream. None of this was real. I'm the same one eternal person. And so that's why it's so important to treat each other with loving kindness, because, you know, if you go, even if you have the power and you go into a situation, you're able to abuse someone else. Well, time is eternal and you can't scale for infinity. And sooner or later, you're going to be the exact same person that you were abusing. So that's why it's so important to treat everyone with kindness and compassion, because sooner or later, you're going to be that person. You're going to get your turn to be that person in the vision. And that's everything from plants to animals, to the planet, to the sky, to heaven, to other people. Everyone you meet, sooner or later, you're going to be them, because you are the eternal observer from the void, watching the vision, and the vision is just swirling around you, and it's not there. So we shouldn't really fear it, but we're in it because our divine power is concealed from us while we're in it. So it's a very difficult thing to escape, and most of us don't even want to, because there's pleasures in it, like, you know, beautiful women and beautiful wife and beautiful children and nice homes and animals and the sensory bliss. Even the bad parts are good, you know. So So is there such a thing as repeating souls? No. There's just one soul. There's one soul going in and out over and over and over and over again. And right now you're just experiencing that. You're just experiencing this part of the vision. And so what we would call an old soul is someone that can remember the deep, long, transcending time information. But eventually that soul is going to be in a part of the vision when he goes around again. And it'll be a part where even all of the past knowledge and information and wisdom will be completely concealed from himself. And then everything is new again. So the forgetfulness is what gives meaning to the experience. Because if we didn't forget, eventually we would escape and the entire construct of reality would come crumbling down and none of it would exist. Because in order for any of this to exist, for there to be trees, sunshine, rain, pain, suffering, triumph, tragedy, in order for any of it to exist, there has to be someone watching it. And if we don't forget, then we'll accumulate power and just crash the whole vision down and be like, okay, I'm out. I'm done with the vision. And then there goes reality. So reality can only exist because we don't remember and because we're our own power is concealed from us. So there's just one soul in existence. And then that one soul puts on many, many different shirts and many different disguises and hides itself from itself in order for reality to exist.
Wow, that was so good. I was loving every bit of that. And it's just imagining, the infinite variations we've done this and getting to those points where we break the whole system and it all comes crumbling down and we pop out of it and we're like, fuck, I broke it. I broke it. I really liked that. I was really enjoying that. How can we do it again where that doesn't happen? How can I do it again where it maintains this just for enjoyment, for the sake of learning and expansion. And you might ask, well, why is it so hard to hold the knowing that it's a vision and not fall into the illusion? Well, it's for that, as you mentioned, so it doesn't break the system from having that full clarity that it is a vision, gets to that point where the vision falls apart. So that's necessary. The difficulty and the challenge of falling into the illusion necessary to preserve it, the contrasting element, the sort of, it's not even a real opposite force, but it is the opposite force of love or this oneness within creation. There has to be an opposite. There has to be an the Christ and the Antichrist, in order to give the full spectrum for the experience to exist in. You have to have both ends of it, the duality. And it's to recognize the duality is simply there for the experience, not to, I mean, of course we can transcend past duality, and it's very helpful in many instances to live without the duality being the end all be all. But at the same time, we celebrate the duality for giving the texture and giving the potential for this existence to exist. And if for any other reason, why do we do this? But just for the challenge, just for the fun of it. We like to play challenging games. We like to have challenging experiences. Everything else gets boring, gets dull after a while. So why not have the challenging one? And this is the culmination of all the experiences getting us to this point as the most challenging time we've ever done this, and the most rewarding and beautiful and powerful in all of it. So yeah, it's amazing and very, very wonderful answer. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'll just pass it back and see if anybody wants to jump in either on this topic or take us a new direction. All right. Well, I will take one from my list here. And this one was from Cheryl. And she was asking about, why is there a black cube on top of Trump Tower? Because there is the belief that, there's the belief that the black cube holds us to this realm. And so she was asking, was Trump's plan to use it to reverse the curse, or, so what's the purpose of that? Is it to highlight it, to bring our attention to it? if it's such a negative thing. And so my response briefly, but I wanted to go into it further, is that there's nothing that's inherently evil. There's no symbolism. There's no image, nothing that's inherently evil or bad or debilitating or any of that. It's all purposeful. And what does the black cube represent? Well, it's a symbol for Saturn, and Saturn often gets a bad rap because Saturn is Chronos or time, and people often view Saturn as this like domineering force that holds us into this place, and time just beats us across the head until we, fall into nothingness and, just adopt a slave reality. And so this is actually very, very related to what Darth just mentioned, as in the vision has this sort of counter force that pulls you into the illusion if you're not careful, if you're not adamantly playing the game and you're not here present within it. It's going to suck you into it and chew you up, and it's not going to be it's not going to be very fun to go that route. And but it's like losing a game. It's not the end all be all. It's not that we give up and we don't play anymore, but it's an invitation for us to do better. So that's all Saturn does, that's why they call it the rings of Saturn, because it's the highest ring. It's the seventh chakra. It's the highest layer to transcend past, and to instead of letting it dominate you, you become above time. You become above this containing presence, so that you can see the vision in its entirety, at least as best as you can. And of course, there's a spectrum within that, and it's not that you reach some certain state and you're above it all. Of course, there is the one state, and but in order for us to preserve this experience of this feeling of separation, having all these different experiences and characters and identities and all of that, then there is some layer of separation that we adopt as a part of this experience. But all to say is that the black cube is and why is the black cube a symbol for Saturn? There's you can see in the sort of outer space, talks, they will show images of Saturn, which are all fake, but it shows that Saturn has this hexagon on its north pole in the image they show, and a hexagon is simply a cube. Because if you draw a cube and you outline that shape, if you make that one-dimensional or two-dimensional rather, then that becomes a hexagon. So the cube in a two-dimensional, the three-dimensional form, the two-dimensional form of that cube is a hexagon. And so that's why the black cube is used as this symbol for Saturn. And there have certainly been people with evil intent who know some about the occult and know some about what these symbols mean, and then they attempt to use them as forms of power to dominate other, and with some success. There is power in the symbols. There is power in the knowledge. And if you wield that power over others who don't have that knowledge, then you can use it in that sense. It's available. But the black cube or Saturn or any of that is not inherently evil. It's simply just a part of the structure of creation. So Trump having that on his tower, and then she also asked about the 9/11 memorial and how that looks like a cube. Of course, the quote unquote truth community points this out as like, oh, this is evil, and it's all with evil intent. But really, it's just a misunderstood symbol. And if people are using it with evil intention, then they're misunderstanding it as well. And so we get to reclaim all of these symbols. No one gets ownership of anything as inherently evil or bad or something that we stay away from. It's all for our benefit. It's all the symbols are like the clearest way that information can travel across time, which is very difficult to maintain infinitely, and you could argue impossible. But symbols are such a pronounced marker within the layers of consciousness, that symbols become this sort of thing that as best as possible transcends time. So they're like clues that we give ourselves as we're this one soul going through all these different timelines and experiences. The symbols act as like a reminder for us to come back to remembering that we are in a vision, and we don't have to fall into it, and we get to play it the ways that we want to, not the ways that we feel we have to. So Saturn is simply from a video game perspective, it's the final boss. It's the final, it's not even really an adversary, but it's the final challenge to overcome, to escape the feelings of domination and the feelings of being in a cage. But we're never in that cage fully. We just simply believe that we are. So the final boss is really you, or your ego, and your inability to see it at that time, and then stepping into your full maturity, or at least a higher degree of maturity to see it at another stage. So that's all the black cube represents. Of course, there's a lot more into it, and I think you can get into like the Kabbalah as another way to look into what the black cube represents, sacred symbolism and things of that nature. And there's much more to get into. I'm barely scratching the surface, but just to give the general gist of it, I will say that, and then I will pass it off and see if anyone else wants to jump in or take us in any which direction.
Even the cross is when you fold the cross up, you get a cube. And the symbol and the meaning of the symbolism of that. So why would the Christian cross fold up into a cube? And that's because Saturn or the antichristic force, and Christ, the Christic force, they're both fighting to dominate the vision, the earthly realm. Because the perspective of Christ versus the perspective of the satanic antichrist, they're incompatible with each other. You're either looking at the glass half full and you're exercising faith, or you're looking at it half empty and you're operating out of fear. And whether you're operating from the Christian cross or the antichristic cube, you know, that depends on how the vision unfolds. However, both the satanic cube and the Christian cross, they both originate from the same consciousness, because the parasiticism versus the symbiosis, right? The Christ versus the Antichrist, they both originate from the same consciousness that is transcendent of both, even the idea of morality. So even if you suffer the greatest tragedy, once you return to the source, it's just a bad dream. It was just an unpleasant vision, and you realize, oh, wait a sec. Yes, I lost everything, but I am everything. So how could I lose everything? And I am both the hero and the villain, because there's only one person in existence. So you have this absolute divine that possesses all attributes, including good and evil. However, good and evil can't occupy the same space at the same time in the vision. In the vision, things are separate. And so there has to be two suns, the Christ and the Antichrist, through which all the attributes flow and then can manifest into the vision. And we have to choose whether we're going to close up in fear, right? So when the cross closes up in fear, it turns into a cube. But when the cube opens up out of faith, it turns into a cross. And so that's the relationship between the cube and the cross. One represents fear and one represents faith.
Oh, that was great. Thanks for adding that. Yeah, Lila, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also that it makes sense that this is sort of coming up because Saturn is retrograde right now, just recently kind of, and probably a lot of conversations around the true meaning of Saturn, the the challenges and the attributes, those conversations are going to be front and center, I think, for the next probably 5 months or so until it goes direct again. It's a really important time to be looking deeply at the Saturnine energy and really, working with it. But I would support everybody in really embracing it and going back and looking at the things within your own life where you could use that refinement in that way. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that. I had shared, I don't remember who I spoke about this to, but I'd compared Saturn to like a tough coach. You know, for those who've played sports or just, you know, familiar with having a tough coach. And sometimes when you're in it and coach is making you do things that you don't want to do, and it can be a pain in the ass. You know, it's not always the most fun thing. And sometimes we don't have the best feelings towards our coach in those moments. But that coach is pushing us to become better, to refine our game, to become a better player. So Saturn is like that tough coach where it's like, it's going to kick your ass if you're not in it. But if you're in it, it's going to make you a better player. It's going to make you advance. And that's what these challenges do. And Saturn is, on some levels, the greatest challenge to overcome. So yeah, just wanted to add that as well. And great discussion on this. We have just a little bit of time left, but I'll pass it off and see if anybody else wants to jump in either on topics we've discussed or take us in a direction. So I'll pass it off. Go ahead.
One last thing I'd like to say real quick is that a lot of times we have a lot of animosity toward the anti-Christic entities, the spiritual entities that we have to deal with. And we have, maybe a little bit of anger toward the satanic Luciferian. However, we have to realize that we all spring from the same source, the absolute consciousness. And if the demonic entities, like let's say foolishness, if the entity of foolishness was to be demanifested out of the vision, then it would recombine with wisdom. And then both wisdom and foolishness would both disappear. And we want to be wise, right? We want to be powerful. So if we're going to be powerful, that means that somewhere weakness has to exist. And the consciousness that chooses to become the shape of weakness, we actually owe it a debt of gratitude, because that entity chose to be weak so that we could be strong. So like, let's imagine for a moment that somehow we managed to capture the satanic parasite itself, and now we have the opportunity to kill it. Well, we better not, because if we kill that parasite, then we also kill the Christ. Because then they both would reabsorb back into the absolute consciousness, and then all of reality would go bye-bye. So the dialectic has to exist. So even when we're dealing with people that we don't want to deal with, people that are possessed by these parasitic dark entities, we still want to treat them with dignity and gratitude within ourselves. We have to be wise in dealing with these people, but we should be grateful that they exist, because we can only exist because they do.
Yeah, very well said. And it's a great reminder, because it helps to sort of lessen the rage or the hatred that we can have grow within ourselves at what has been committed and what is continuing to be committed. And it's not to excuse it. I'm not in any way advocating for excusing harmful behavior. We need to become extremely intolerant of harmful behavior. But the sense within ourselves, I would echo that, to bring it back to a state of gratitude for those souls choosing to play that role in the story. And it's like at the end of a play, if you've ever performed, you can play these roles on the stage, but after the play's over, you're congratulating each other and thanking each other for playing the roles as well as they did. We need the contrasting characters in order for this whole experience to exist. So as challenging as it is, and that's what makes this such a rewarding place to be, to get to have that peace that passes all understanding, and get to that point where I can have gratitude for those who are playing the most vicious or whatever roles within this experience. Again, not to tolerate that behavior, because that's the role that I'm choosing. I'm choosing the intolerant position, but I also recognize and appreciate the necessity of that role to exist for this story and for this experience as a whole to exist. So it just helps to always come back to that balance point. As much as we feel called to polarize, and we should, and advocate for standing for goodness and righteousness, also know that the contrasting elements are necessary in order for this experience to exist. So that's a great reminder. I really appreciate that. And I think that's a phenomenal way to end today's discussion. Really, really deep topics to get into at the very end. And so I appreciate that. But I want to give time to go over the lyrics for the two songs that I'm going to leave us out with and have time to play them. As I mentioned, I do need to end these shows just 30 minutes early on for the next few weeks or so. We've got another band playing in the park here locally. It's a reggae band tonight, which should be fun. So yeah, let's look at the lyrics here, what we've got to play us out to. More Ozzy Osbourne songs. The first one is called Gets Me Through. So I'm not the kind of person you think I am. I'm not the Antichrist or the Iron Man. I have a vision that I just can't control. How fitting. I feel I've lost my spirit and sold my soul. Got no control. So this is the state of being where we fall too deeply into the vision and lose control over it to where it becomes an illusion, as Darth mentioned. But continuing, I try to entertain you the best I can. So speaking to the Christ, speaking to divinity, I try to entertain you the best I can. I wish I'd started walking before I ran. So walking on the way. But I still love the feeling I get from you when I am connected to the Christ, when I am connected to the divine. I still love the feeling that I get from you. I hope you'll never stop because it gets me through. Yeah, it gets me through. So that's again the peace that passes all understanding. This sense that we have that no matter how intense the vision gets, no matter how polarized the characters and how intense the battle scene is, and whether it's within our own personal lives or on the earth-wide scale or whatever in between, it's what gets me through. It gets me through is that connection point. The feelings that I hide behind, sometimes reality is unkind. The nightmares stalk for me at night. I dread the long and lonely nights. So the nights are the moments when the sense of separation is greater. So, and just looking at it from a large scale with this great year of roughly 25,000 years, the great year and the night we've been in the night for the last potentially 12,000 some odd years, and we're coming out of night into day. So I dread the long and lonely nights in those times where we are feeling more separated. I'm not the kind of person you think I am. I'm not the Antichrist or the Iron Man. I'm all in between, but I still love the feeling I get from you. I hope you'll never stop because it gets me through. Yeah, I'm just trying to live. I think it should say to live. I'm just trying to live. Yeah. Fourfold nature of man, 4 times, 4 seasons. I'm just trying to live. So it gets me through. So that's that song. And then the one I'll end with is another very popular one of theirs, Ozzy Osbourne, Mama, I'm Coming Home. So on this venture, we we always come home, or we're on our way back home, and home is always there. So times have changed and times are strange. Here I come, but I ain't the same. Mama, I'm coming home. Time's gone by, seems to be, you could have been a better friend to me. Mama, I'm coming home. So no matter how dark the experience get, no matter how deep the sense of separation feels, Mama, I'm coming home. You took me in and you drove me out. So we come within, you drove me out, in and out, the sine wave, the oscillating motion, the toroidal field, in and out, the breath. Yeah, you had me hypnotized. Yeah, the vision, lost and found and turned around. So we forget who we are by the fire in your eyes. So the burning fire, the fire element, the cleansing, rebirth, renewal, phoenix rising. You made me cry. You told me lies, but I can't stand to say goodbye. All the feelings we have, the full spectrum of emotions that makes this experience so beautiful and wonderful and terrible and scary, and all of it, sad, joyful, all of it. It's all beautiful. Mama, I'm coming home. I could be right. I could be wrong. It hurts so bad. It's been so long. Mama, I'm coming home. Selfish love. Yeah, we're both alone. The ride before the fall. Yeah, but I'm going to take this heart of stone. I've got to have it all. I've seen your face 100 times. Every day we've been apart. I don't care about the sunshine. Yeah, because Mama, I'm coming home. And then it repeats. Yeah, it repeats there. I've seen your face 1,000 times. Every day we've been apart. And I don't care about the sunshine. Yeah, because Mama, I'm coming home. So yeah, that's the two songs I'm going to play us out with. Thanks again, everybody, for being here today. Just really appreciate all the input, everyone listening, and just being here. I love doing this, and I love you all so very much. So thanks for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are, and we'll keep on doing these. And just a heads up, tomorrow I will not be doing a watch party, so we'll resume the watch parties next Friday. So no watch party tomorrow. So have a wonderful strong end or weekend. But I like to be strong, so have a wonderful strong end. And yeah, take care, everybody. We'll play these out and then we'll close out. So see you next time.